Hi, today I'm going to be showing you around this 1991 Mercedes-Benz 300 CE, known as the C124 series. And it now has become a timeless classic to many Mercedes enthusiasts, and it represents the last of the great Mercedes models. It was a pillarless coupe from the early 90s designed to be exclusive, and it was worth between 160,000 to 200,000 Australian dollars. And we're going to find out what makes this car special. So to do that, I'm going to give you a quick overview, talk about its options and features, talk about its exterior and interior, and then I'm going to drive it. Okay, so a little bit of an overview. The 300 CE was part of the 124 E-Class lineup, which was in production from 1986 to 1996. So why was this coupe version so special if it was based on a Mercedes saloon they used as a taxi? Well, because the coupe versions were expensive, they were a lot more rare, only making up 2% of the entire 124 model lineup. The coupes came with more equipment, some luxury items from the W126 S-Class, and then in 1997, the C124 was replaced by the Mercedes CLK class, known as the W208. It was designed to be aimed at a younger audience, and the price tag was lower to be more attainable to the BMW 3 Series buyer. But because the CLK was based on a W202 C-Class platform, the CLK lacked build quality, styling and engineering achievements that made the C124 special. It's worth mentioning this car is finished in midnight blue. In terms of the colours, there were a number of different flat finishes to choose from and metallic colours. And the 300 CE 24 valve came with a lot standard, being the top specification coupe. Okay, moving on to the walk around tour, starting with that elegant classic radiator grille. The star on the bonnet. It has flush design headlights made out of glass. You had a single wiper that extends up to clear more of the windshield. And moving on to the side, you'll notice the C124 has a lower roofline, no B pillars, so that gave it the pillarless window design. When they developed this car, they used wind tunnels, computer technology to make it aerodynamic. So the headlights were streamlined, as so the bonnet design on the top corner, Sacco panels, and the iconic 15-hole flat-faced alloy wheels, which are 15 inches in diameter. And the advantage to that was to make it stable at high speeds and fuel efficient. And just on the back, we have the angular boot design with the Australian third brake light on the top window there. And if you notice on the rear tail lights, they have this ribbed design on the older Mercedes models. That was a benefit for snow build-up, so you can still see the rear tail light bulbs. Now let's move on to the interior. So of course you've got the pillarless doors. Let's start off with the highlights of the cabin design, starting with build quality. So take a listen with that door slam, very solid, the switch gear. Everything feels really well built. They just don't make cars like this anymore. This example is finished in the navy blue leather, and it's absolutely beautiful in here, especially this one being low mileage. And instead of MB-Tex leather, you had soft leather seats. These were the same seat designs from the W126. They are electric on both sides. However, the driver has the additional memory function. And I have driven a number of these cars on a long distance road trip, and I found them quite comfortable. You've also got some soft leather on the door cards here. You've got a leather wrapped steering wheel, extended timber work along the dashboard, beautiful timber work all along the center console, and beautiful timber work on the doors. You have belt presenters that pop out to present the seat belt for easier access. You have a leather armrest that you can fold up, and if you push that button, fold it back down. When you push this seat button, hold that down, and the headrests go back. Over here you just have a rear chauffeur backlight. Switchgear is pretty standard for the air conditioning controls. And this example of source has the original Becker Mexico stereo system. Down here we have electric window switches with mirror controls as well. However, the mirror on the driver's side is manual, but on the passenger side it is electric. And just this wheel down here is your sound adjustment. Moving on to the instrument cluster, I'll just start the car up. On the bottom, you just had all your warning icons. On the left side you have your fuel, temperature gauge and oil pressure, and on the right side your rev counter and clock, and in the middle a speedometer going to 260. I have a really clear view of what is ahead of me with a really good driving position. And lastly, if we take this key out, it makes that annoying buzzing sound until you switch off the lights. We've got our cruise control stalk just up here. You hold it up for acceleration and pull it down for deceleration. Indicators and wipers. Pretty simple layout. In terms of practicality, on the side here you had some map pockets. Just on the bottom here there's just some carpet. On the American models you did have a lockable compartment there. We've just got a standard 12 volt socket in this ashtray and a lockable glove box revealing 2 cup holders. Although I wouldn't recommend you using those as they don't look well designed. From all the money they spent developing their cars, they couldn't quite get the cup holders right. Up the top I have a seatbelt warning label. Let me know if all of my passengers have plugged their seatbelts in. And up here, just your lights. And up here, your sunroof control. So let's now move on to the back seats. To access the rear, simply just push that button in, push that forward. They lock into place when the ignition is on. And getting in, as you can see, it's pretty easy. And once you have the seat in place, in the back seats I've got my driver's seat in my position. I've got plenty of knee and toe room, just the headroom's a little bit compromised, but overall it's very spacious for a 2-door coupe. I would be quite happy for a short journey in the back of one of these. And just look at the visibility you get with the pillarless windows. You do have electric window switches back here. They're just not working because the car is switched off. And it's quite luxurious. I've got leather here. I've got an armrest just over here. Beautiful timber work that opens as well, revealing some storage and an ashtray. And lastly, just on the top here, the first aid kit. At the back we have a saloon sized boot, as this is based on a 124 sedan with a 480 litre boot capacity, and that's nice to know because you can fit 2 suitcases or golf clubs back there if you wanted to use this car as a weekend getaway. We've also got the original triangle. If I pull this open, we've got the original spare tyre and toolkit. And just on the top there, I've laid out all of its original brochures, factory literature. Nice to see everything all original, a car of this age. Okay, so the engine bay, we just pull down this red lever. Bonnet, you just push this out, hold the other end of the bonnet and lift it up. It is a naturally aspirated 3 litre engine block, produces 167 kilowatts of power, coupled with a 5-speed automatic gearbox sending power to the rear wheels. We've also got ABS connected to 4 all-round disc brakes, so in terms of the technology it is quite modern. And from what we can see, just the overall condition on this example, the engine bay looks very tidy, very original. So now we've got the specifications out of the way, let's take it for a drive and see how it handles on the road. Now this has the upgraded 5-speed. Many of the earlier ones had a 4-speed. So it did improve the way this drove, because normally the 4 speeds in the Mercedes is what rule the driving experience in terms of spirited driving. But to drive, waft around, they were pretty good. This car was never designed to be a sports car, but once you get it up to speed, past 70, 80, it is quite potent. Okay, so the handling of the car. Well, instead of a power steering rack, it has a steering box, an electronic one. So it does drive pretty much like any Mercedes-Benz from this era. It has great handling, that's if you can find one with good maintained suspension. And it's got good torque, good power. And this car's all about cruising. When you're wafting along, it's just so effortless to drive. And when we go over speed bumps, for example, as you can see, it's got really soft suspension. They use quality shock absorbers, and the way the setup was ahead of its time. And that was a priority for Mercedes-Benz, to make the best engineered car in the world. But what I find really impressive, it does not feel like a vintage car to drive. It does feel quite modern. And this example is more than 30 years old and it still feels almost like I just drove it off the showroom floor. And most importantly, you feel very special behind the wheel. You feel very stylish. The car has a really nice elegance about it. And this is the experience some of the newer Mercedes-Benz models are lacking. Just some of the class, the elegance, the build quality, the way the car feels, the way it's engineered. I don't think any manufacturer would ever build a car like this was built. So that's why I think these are very desirable and they're becoming a classic car, especially in the coupe form. The values of these haven't skyrocketed like Porsche, for example. So in terms of getting your hands on one, they're quite affordable. They do, however, need to be maintained, but if you maintain them, they just go on forever. And it's a very inexpensive classic car to own. So that's my short drive. Now let's move on to a verdict. Okay, so some of my final thoughts on the C124 now I've spent a little bit of time with it. I think it has a timeless design, an elegant look to it. It's one of my all-time favorite Mercedes-Benz models from this era. And to drive, it does feel very special. Compared to modern cars, of course, it doesn't drive as well, but it doesn't feel vintage like most of its competitors back in the day, like a Jaguar XJS. As I mentioned, they are quite rare compared to the sedans due to the low production volume, and not many were sold in Australia due to its price tag. And already they're becoming very collectible, very hard to find. In good condition, I think it is a fantastic classic car to own, to maintain, and a beautiful car to drive. So please like my video, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next film.